You know who it is. Jack Daniels at The Boxers Trainers Channel. And Ben Spikes. Oh, okay. Ben Spikes. So, again, I was interrupted. But, again, Jack Daniels at The Boxers Trainers Channel. And this morning, we got some breaking news, right? And it's some good breaking news. You know what I'm saying? It's breaking news that we should hear more of, right? When it comes to boxing, right? The fans, me included, want to see the best fights in boxing. And of late, that has not been happening, right? We have been getting fights that are not that entertaining. But because we don't get the good fights, the best fights, right, we take what we can get. Because fans like me love the sport of boxing. So quite naturally, we're going to take what we get. But the fact still remains the same as boxing fans, as boxing pundits, as people who love the sport of boxing. We all have to agree on one thing, that it is the great fights, the big fights that we want the promoters to make. So let me give some doable breaking news in that Frank Martin and Edwin De Los Santos is in heavy negotiations to bring about a fight next month. Excuse me. In March, the month of March, it would be the undercard to the Errol Spence and Sebastian Fedor fight, right? Quite naturally, Spence and Fedor would be the main event. And that is another fight that we'll talk about later. But today we're talking about a dang good fight, man. You know what I'm saying? Between Frank Martin and Edwin De Los Santos. El De Los Santos is one heck of a fighter that we don't get enough of him being brought to the table to represent boxing, right? I mean, that seems to be the norm when it comes to the boxing promoters. You know what I mean? Instead of making the fights that we really want to see, that we really, really, really want to see, right? They give us kibbles and bits, right? Once in a while, they'll give us a great fight. 2 or 3 months down the road, they'll give us a fight, a plain fight. Now, I don't know how to describe these fights, right? But I know when I was boxing, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to smoke. You know what I mean? And I just hate to believe that the boxers today, you know what I'm saying, do not want to smoke. Don't give a darn which area or what direction the smoke is coming from, right? As long as a boxer can get the smoke. And he has to want to smoke in order to put the promoters in a position where they'll call him up to make the fight. You know what I'm saying? It is the promoters, but it is also noteworthy to note that it is the boxers who have the right to fuss and argue at the promoters in order to get the fights that satisfies the boxing fan, right? We pay the boxers, the promoters, everybody gets paid by the fan. So why isn't it possible for us to get the fights we want with the best fighters? Now, again, Frank Martin versus Edwin De Los Santos in the lightweight division is a dang good fight. A fight that I would love to see. Based on the fact that we didn't get an entertaining Frank Martin when Frank Martin fought Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Tank Davis knocked Frank Martin out, I believe it was the 7th round. It was a good fight, but I think that Frank Martin surrendered to the notion that Gervonta Tank Davis was better than him. And that in and of itself is enough to put the person that's fighting with that type of mindset in a position where he's not going 100% with all his abilities to duel out with his opponent. That opponent then was Gervonta Tank Davis. Everybody's of the opinion that Gervonta Tank Davis is incapable of being beaten. Now, I like Tank Davis. I like him a lot, but I see as a boxer, ex-boxer, and as a pundit, a lot of flaws in Gervonta Davis's arsenal, right? So I think that given the right circumstance and the right boxer, I said boxer, not fighter. A boxer is one that uses his skill set, right, to defend the integrity of his win-loss ratio, right? I say that because that's what my style was. I was a boxer, not a fighter, and I made the distinction between the two on several occasions, right? A boxer is a puncher, and he will stand right in front of you and defend his territory, right, without being clever enough to get out of the way of punches, right? That is a fighter. A boxer is a clever, astute individual that uses the ring, that uses the boxer's inability to keep up pace with the boxer, and therefore the boxer, 9 times out of 10, a good boxer always comes out victoriously. Now I can say that because I've been in that position several times. Now, again, Frank Martin is an excellent boxer, but I believe that Edward De Los Santos, which is 25 years of age, he's 5'8" with a 70.1-inch arm reach. And what makes this fight really, really interesting, both of these cats is left-handers, right? Damn. Left-handers, right? If you got two guys that are good left-handers and they both have the compunction and the desire to win, man, you got to fight. Edward De Los Santos and Frank Martin would be a darn good fight. A fight that I would pay to see. A fight that we ought to encourage the promoters to make, right? Edward De Los Santos with 16 wins, 14 by knockout. He has 2 losses. One to Shakur Stevenson, and I believe the other one was by Jose Venezuela, if I'm not mistaken, right? And those 2 losses were not that embarrassing for Edward De Los Santos because they both, in both the fights, Edward De Los Santos made good fights, made good efforts to win, right? There you go. The Mexican G in the house. Absolutely. Shout out to Mexican G who said Edward beat Jose. Hey, you're absolutely right. He did. The Mexican G said Edward beat Jose Venezuela. Hey, that's what I'm cooking on this about, man. Edward De Los Santos is a bad mamma jamma, right? But we don't actually get enough. We don't get enough of his skill set, right? Because the promoters today, shout out to Gil Cole in the house. And the promoters today, for some strange reason, I don't know if it's the finances or whatever the case may be, I don't know why they put on these lackluster performances, right? And make us, the boxing fans, the boxing community, have to suffer as a result of seeing fights that we really don't want to see, but hey, we boxing fans, we love the sport, we're going to watch it. There ought to be a way around this. If y'all got thoughts on that, this is a live phone chat, y'all. Area code 870-571-3995. Call in and let's have a conversation about what y'all think about Edward De Los Santos versus Frank Martin. Again, I think that would be a terrific fight. Gil Cole, I hear you, brother. Gil Cole is at work, and I can't have a conversation with Gil Cole. And I like having a conversation with Gil Cole on the phone chat, but because Gil Cole let his feelings be known, and that's one thing that we all should love about boxing, right? We all have a voice in the win and loss, or the better or the worst boxer that's on the table. That's before us, right? But now let's get back to Frank Martin. Frank Martin is 29 years of age. He's 5'8" with a 68.1-inch arm reach. He's a left-hander. 18 wins, 12 by knockout, 1 loss. And in that loss, he got stopped by Gervonta Davis. No draw. He is number what? He is ranked number 8 by the WO, 8 by the IBF, 8 by the WC, and 9 by the WA. Now he got good ranks. He got good rankings, right? He's up in that 10, that category of the top 10, which is always a good place to be. No, Gil Cole, we ain't doing it, man. We're not talking about Devin, brother. I will answer that question. Devin hasn't announced who he's fighting on BLK. As a matter of fact, now that you mentioned BLK, Gil, I had conversation. Actually, I had conversation with BLK this morning. Although we didn't get off into the dynamics of that particular fight, I had something that I wanted to bring to the table with BLK. And I am pleased to announce no hype, but cheers to the fact that I am going to be in a position where I can present a proposal to BLK or the boxing promoter who is working on this particular fight that Gil Cole is talking about between Devin Haney and whoever his opponent is to be. And I believe Dante Wilder is on that card, and Brian Norman Sr., I'm learning, is on that card as well, right? And Mexican G said the other day, "Are you serious?" I'm serious. Brian Norman Sr. is going to fight on that card. So that being said, well, let's talk about Frank Martin, man. I wanted to see Frank Martin back in the ring before, after he had that fight with Gervonta Tank Davis. I thought Frank Martin had a bad day with Gervonta Tank Davis. I actually had Frank Martin win, right? But Gervonta Tank Davis had other plans in mind, and he knocked Frank Martin out in the 7th round. What do y'all think about that? I mean, did anybody have any enlightening feelings about Frank Martin and how he got knocked out? Frank Martin's a bad little old cat, really. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of respect for Frank Martin. I just don't think he went in there with the mindset to win. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not taking anything from him. Shout out to Gil. That's funny. Frank's day was so bad that he went to sleep. He sure went to sleep, and Gervonta Tank Davis made sure of that. Boy, I love being in the chat, especially with these cats that's in the chat today. They're good people, and they make my day by coming to the chat. And it'll be a time when I'm going to have a whole bunch of people in this chat because I'm going to be persistent with my podcast. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all in the chat. Look, I got another show to do later on today. I hope y'all will be with me. Shout out again. Yeah, he was. Shout out to Mexican G. Mexican G said he watched that Frank, and Frank was looking smooth in that fight. He was. But yeah, and he did. But shout out to Gil Cole. Frank actually did pretty good until Tank set him up, and that's exactly what he did. And exactly what he did, Mexican G. It was a good fight. But I just had more. I just had more confidence in Frank than Frank had in himself. I did, right? That being said, hey, y'all, hit that subscription button, hit the like button, and note that this analyst loved being in the company of the chat. Y'all keep pushing that line. I'm going to keep pushing this line, and one day we're going to meet in the middle. That being said, share this video with your friends and relatives, and I'll see you later. Later.